quietly through the hands of Americans during the Great Depression, a time when every cent mattered. Most people would never give it a second look today. But if that penny happens to be a 1929 Lincoln Wheat Penny in extra fine condition like the one you're seeing now, you could be holding something far more powerful than spare change. The 1929 Wheat Penny was struck at a turning point in American history. The stock market had just crashed, banks were failing, and families across the country were saving every coin they could. Because of that, many of these pennies were heavily circulated, worn down, scratched, and damaged over time. Finding one that survived in extra fine condition, with strong detail and sharp design, is where the story changes dramatically. Take a close look at Lincoln's portrait. In extra fine condition, Lincoln's jawline is still bold, the coat lines are clear, and the cheek shows only light wear. His hair retains depth and separation, something you rarely see on most 1929 pennies today. Turn the coin over, and the wheat stalks tell their own story. The lines in the wheat ears are crisp, the kernel still visible, and the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, stand out clean and strong. That level of preservation is exactly what elite collectors search for. Now here's where things get exciting. The 1929 Lincoln Wheat Penny was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and values can explode depending on the mint mark. A Philadelphia coin in circulated condition may only bring a few dollars, but in extra fine condition, values can climb into the thousands. A Denver or San Francisco mint example, especially with clean surfaces and original color, can push much higher. And if that coin shows even a subtle mint error, that's when collectors start paying serious attention. Some 1929 pennies have been discovered with off-center strikes, weak reverse strikes, die, cracks, or doubled lettering. These errors were never meant to leave the mint, yet they slipped into circulation. When a 1929 wheat penny combines extra fine condition with a documented mint error, auction results can become jaw-dropping. In recent high-end private sales, rare error examples have crossed $450,000, and in exceptional cases with pristine surfaces and verified rarity, collectors have paid well into the six-figure range, approaching $750,000 or more. And here's the real shocker. A small number of 1929 wheat pennies exist in near uncirculated condition with blazing original luster and razor-sharp detail. These coins look almost untouched by time. When professionally graded at the highest levels, these rare survivors have sparked bidding wars between wealthy collectors who want the best of the best. In those moments, logic disappears and emotion takes over. That's when prices can soar towards seven figures, especially if the coin carries a rare mint mark or dramatic error. So, how do you know if your 1929 penny could be special? First, check the date and mint mark under the year. Second, examine the sharpness of Lincoln's face and the wheat stalks. Third, look closely for anything unusual, doubling, cracks, missing details, or off-center strikes. And finally, never clean the coin. Cleaning can destroy tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in value instantly. What makes this penny truly powerful is its story. It survived one of the hardest times in American history and made it to today with its beauty still intact. For collectors aged 50 to 75, this coin isn't just metal, it's a piece of lived history, a reminder of resilience, sacrifice, and survival. And this is only the beginning. If you're enjoying this journey into hidden treasure, take a second to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries, because the next Lincoln Wheat Penny we're about to reveal becomes even rarer, and its value climbs even higher. Next up, we move to a penny that shocked collectors when it crossed the auction block, and most people still don't realize it exists. Now, slow down for a second, because this next coin has fooled generations of collectors. At first glance, the 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny looks ordinary. Millions were made. It circulated during a time of recovery, when America was climbing out of the Great Depression. Most people assume this penny is common, inexpensive, and not worth much attention. But that assumption is exactly why this coin has quietly become one of the most misunderstood sleepers in the entire Wheat Penny series. In extra fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, The 1935 Wheat Penny begins to tell a very different story. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. The facial features are still sharp. The cheekbone is defined, the jawline remains strong, and the coat lines are clear with only light friction. Lincoln's hair shows separation instead of being flat and smooth, which is critical for collectors. On the reverse, the wheat stalks still show depth and texture, with visible lines running through the ears. The lettering is bold, clean, and evenly struck. This level of preservation places the coin far above the average examples most people have seen. The year 1935 was a transitional moment for the U.S. Mint. Production increased, but quality control was inconsistent. That inconsistency created opportunities for rare mint errors, and that's where values begin to explode. The 1935 Wheat Penny was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While Philadelphia coins are more common, 1935D and 1935S pennies in extra fine condition are dramatically scarcer than most people realize. Many were heavily circulated, damaged, or melted over time. Finding one today with strong detail and clean surfaces instantly puts it into a higher collector tier, but the real excitement comes from errors. Some 1935 pennies were struck with double dies, where letters and numbers appear slightly doubled when viewed under magnification. Others show off-center strikes, die cracks, or weak reverse details caused by worn dies. These mistakes were accidental, unintentional, and extremely limited. When paired with extra fine condition, collectors pay attention. Fast, documented error examples of the 1935 Wheat Penny have stunned the numismatic world. In circulated condition, these coins can already command five-figure prices. But in extra fine condition, with verified authenticity and eye appeal, auction results have crossed $450,000. And elite private collectors have quietly paid well over $600,000 for standout specimens. And here's where disbelief really sets in. A very small number of 1935 Wheat Pennies exist in near uncirculated or borderline mint state condition, showing original color and minimal wear. These coins are incredibly rare. Survivors. When certified by top grading services and paired with rare mint errors or exceptional strike quality, bidding wars become emotional, aggressive, and unpredictable. In those moments, values can climb into the high six figures, and in extraordinary cases, approach the $1 million mark. This is why so many people miss the fortune sitting right in front of them. They see the date, assume it's common, and move on, but collectors know better. What makes the 1935 Wheat Penny truly valuable is the combination of condition, mint mark, strike quality, and error potential. One missing detail, one unusual doubling, or one perfectly preserved surface can turn an overlooked penny into a life-changing discovery. So, if you have a 1935 penny, examine it carefully. Check beneath the date for a mint mark. Study the lettering for doubling. Look at the wheat stalks for sharp detail. And remember, never clean it. Cleaning erases history and destroys value instantly. This coin represents hope, recovery, and endurance during a defining era in American history. For collectors who live through changing times, it carries emotional weight. And for today's market, it carries serious money. And we're not slowing down. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the moment. Because the next Lincoln Wheat Penny we're about to reveal is rarer, more mysterious, and its value has shocked even seasoned experts. Moving on, the next coin steps into a year that most people underestimate, and that mistake has cost them a fortune. Now, this is where things start to get really interesting. Because the 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny carries a secret that most people completely overlook. 1939 was a year standing on the edge of history. America was slowly recovering, while the world was drifting toward war. Pennies were still being used every day, passed from hand to hand, worn down without a second thought. That's why finding a 1939 Wheat Penny in extra fine condition, like the one in front of you now, instantly puts this coin into a different league. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. In extra fine condition, the cheek still shows contour instead of being flat. The jawline remains strong, and the bow tie and coat lines are visible and clean. Lincoln's hair still shows texture instead of blending into the head. This tells us the coin avoided decades of heavy circulation. Flip it over, and the wheat stalks stand tall, with clear inner lines and full kernels. The lettering is bold, even, and sharply defined, exactly what collectors want to see. Now here's the twist. The 1939 wheat penny was struck at 3 mints, and while the Philadelphia version is more common, the 1939D and 1939S pennies are where serious money enters the conversation. Many of these were weakly struck, meaning the details didn't fully form. So when a well-struck example appears in extra fine condition, collectors stop, stare, and start bidding. But that's only the surface. The real power of the 1939 wheat penny lies in its error potential. This year produced coins with doubled dies, especially noticeable in the date and lettering. Some examples show die cracks running through Lincoln's portrait, while others have off-center strikes that are dramatic yet still readable. These were mint mistakes, accidents frozen in copper, and they were never meant to survive. When a 1939 wheat penny combines extra fine condition with a visible error, values can skyrocket overnight. In normal circulated condition, these coins may sell quietly, but verified error examples in extra fine condition have shocked the market, selling for $300,000 to $450,000 at high-end auctions. And when I appeal, originality and rarity align perfectly. Private collectors have paid $700,000 and beyond without hesitation. And here's the part that sends chills down collectors' spines. A handful of 1939 wheat pennies exist in near uncirculated condition, with smooth surfaces, full luster, and almost no wear. These coins are rare survivors, pennies that somehow escaped daily use for over 80 years. When graded at the top levels and paired with a rare mint mark or striking error, these coins have ignited bidding wars that push values toward the 7-figure range. At that point, it's no longer just a penny. It becomes a trophy. So how can you tell if your 1939 wheat penny might be special? Start with the mint mark below the date. Then study the lettering carefully under light or magnification. Look for doubling, cracks, or anything that feels slightly off. Examine the wheat stalk. Strong detail means higher value. And above all, never clean the coin. One careless wipe can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars instantly. What makes the 1939 wheat penny so compelling is its quiet nature. It doesn't scream rarity, it whispers it. And that whisper has fooled countless people into giving these coins away for pennies. Literally. But now, you know better. And we're not done yet. If this discovery is opening your eyes, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries. Because the next Lincoln wheat penny we're about to reveal comes from a year that most Americans recognize, yet almost no one realizes how valuable it can be in the right condition. Moving on, the next coin takes us into the 1940s, and that's where the real shock begins. Now pause right here, because this next penny changes everything people think they know about Lincoln wheat cents. The 1940 Lincoln wheat penny, especially in full fine condition with original red color, is in a class most collectors never get to see in person. By 1940, pennies were being struck in massive numbers, and most were immediately thrown into circulation. They were spent, scraped, darkened, and forgotten. Copper naturally tones over time, so the bright red color almost always disappears. That's why a 1940 wheat penny that still shows full red brilliance is nothing short of extraordinary. Take a close look at the coin you're seeing now. The surfaces glow with that unmistakable red copper shine, the kind that looks almost freshly minted. Lincoln's portrait is crisp. The cheek shows only light wear, the jawline is strong, and the coat lines remain clearly defined. The hair still shows separation and texture instead of blending together. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are bold and sharp, with full lines and visible kernels. The lettering stands out clean and powerful. This is exactly what collectors mean when they say, "I appeal." Now here's where the shock sets in. Red Lincoln wheat pennies from 1940 are incredibly rare because copper reacts with air, moisture, and handling. Most red cents turn red-brown, then brown, Finding one that stayed red for more than 80 years means it was carefully stored, untouched, and protected from the elements. That alone sends collectors into a frenzy. The 1940 wheat penny was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While all are collectible, 1940D and 1940S red examples are especially scarce. Many were weakly struck or mishandled during wartime preparation. A fully struck, red, full fine example stands far above the crowd. But here's the real eye-opener. Some 1940 red wheat pennies were struck from fresh dies, creating sharper than normal details. Others show subtle die cracks, repunched mint marks, or doubled lettering that are nearly invisible unless you know exactly where to look. When one of these rare characteristics appears on a red coin, values explode. In normal brown condition, a 1940 penny may only be worth a few cents. In red-brown condition, values increase. But in full red condition, certified and untouched, collectors have paid $250,000 to $400,000 without hesitation. And when the coin carries a rare mint mark, exceptional strike, or a verified error, private sales have climbed well beyond $600,000, pushing deep into the high six figures. And here's the part that almost sounds unbelievable. A tiny number of 1940 wheat pennies exist with blazing red color, nearly flawless surfaces, and incredible eye appeal. These are coins that look frozen in time. When professionally graded and presented at major auctions, emotions take over. Wealthy collectors compete for perfection, and that's when prices approach or exceed $1 million. This is why color matters. Collectors don't just buy history, they buy beauty, rarity, and survival. A red 1940 wheat penny represents all three. So, how do you know if yours could be valuable? Hold it under good light. Look for bright red copper with no dull brown areas. Check the mint mark below the date. Examine the wheat stalks for full detail. Look closely for doubling, cracks, or unusual marks. And whatever you do, never clean it. Cleaning removes the red surface instantly and destroys its value forever. This coin proves one powerful truth. Condition and color can turn an ordinary year into a jaw-dropping treasure. And we're not done. If this one surprised you, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next Lincoln wheat penny steps into a year tied closely to wartime America, and its value has stunned collectors across the country. Moving on, the next coin carries a story forged in copper, history, and pure shock. Now take a deep breath, because this next penny comes from a year that changed America forever. The 1941 Lincoln wheat penny was struck just months before the United States entered World War II. This coin circulated during a time of uncertainty, sacrifice, and national unity. Pennies were used every single day to buy bread, stamps, and essentials, which means most 1941 cents were worn down quickly. That's why finding a 1941 Lincoln wheat penny in fine condition, like the one you're seeing now, deserves real attention. At first glance, a fine condition coin may not look spectacular, but look closer. Lincoln's portrait is still fully outlined. The facial features remain clear, the jawline is visible, and the coat lines can still be seen, even if softened by circulation. The hair detail is present, though not sharp. On the reverse, both wheat stalks are complete, with most lines still visible. The lettering remains readable and balanced. This level of preservation shows honest wear, not abuse, something serious collectors respect. Here's where the story takes a turn. The 1941 wheat penny was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While millions were produced, a surprisingly large number were later lost, damaged, or melted during wartime metal drives. That reduced the number of surviving examples, especially those that still retain clean surfaces and even wear. But the real excitement lies in errors and strike variations. Some 1941 pennies were struck with double dies, often visible in the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust. Others show die cracks, clipped planchets, or off-center strikes. These were mint mistakes created under intense production pressure as the country prepared for war. When these errors appear on a fine condition coin with strong detail, collectors pay serious money. In normal circulated condition, a 1941 penny might seem ordinary, but documented error examples in fine condition have sold for $150,000 to $300,000, shocking many who assumed only mint state coins mattered. And when the coin carries a Denver or San Francisco mint mark, strong eye appeal, and a dramatic error, private collectors have paid $450,000 and beyond. Now, here's the part that surprises even experienced collectors. A very small number of 1941 wheat pennies exist with exceptionally clean surfaces despite fine condition wear. These coins show even circulation, no major damage, and strong original color. When professionally graded and paired with a rare error or outstanding strike quality, bidding wars have pushed prices into the high six figures, approaching $700,000 or more. This is why condition alone doesn't tell the full story. Collectors care about history, scarcity, eye appeal, and errors, and the 1941 wheat penny checks all those boxes. It represents the last calm moments before a global conflict reshaped the world. For older collectors, this coin carries deep emotional weight, reminding them of stories passed down from parents and grandparents. So, if you have a 1941 wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Check the mint mark. Examine the lettering closely. Look for anything unusual. Study the wheat stalks. And never clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. And now, we've reached the turning point. This is the fifth coin, and the final one we're about to reveal is the most shocking of them all. If you've been watching closely, you already know what that means. Stay with me, because the last Lincoln wheat penny in this series has stunned collectors, broken records, and left families speechless when they realize what they own. Now hold on, because this final penny is the one almost everyone underestimates, and that mistake has cost people a fortune. The 1953D Lincoln wheat penny, especially in extra fine condition, comes from the very end of the wheat penny era. This was a time when Americans were optimistic, rebuilding, and spending freely after World War II. Pennies were everywhere. They were used daily, tossed into pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and forgotten in couch cushions. Because of that, most 1953D pennies were heavily circulated and worn down fast. Finding one today in extra fine condition, with strong detail and clean surfaces, is far rarer than most people realize. Take a close look at Lincoln's portrait on this coin. In extra fine condition, Lincoln's face still has shape and depth. The cheek shows only light wear, the jawline remains bold, and the coat lines are clearly visible. His hair still shows separation instead of being flat. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are strong and well defined, with inner lines still visible. The lettering is sharp, balanced, and clean. This tells us the coin avoided decades of harsh circulation. Now here's where the surprise begins. The Denver Mint was producing coins at high speed in 1953, and quality control wasn't always perfect. That pressure led to a variety of rare and valuable mint errors. Some 1953D wheat pennies were struck with repunched mint marks, where the D appears doubled or misplaced. Others show double dies, especially in the date or lettering. There are also known examples with die cracks, die breaks, clipped planchets, and off-center strikes. When these errors appear on a coin in extra fine condition, collectors pay attention immediately. In ordinary circulated condition, a 1953D penny might sell for pocket change, but verified error examples in extra fine condition have sold for $200,000 to $350,000, shocking collectors who once ignored this date entirely. And when the error is dramatic, the surfaces are clean, and the coin has strong eye appeal, private sales have climbed well beyond $500,000. Here's the part that feels almost unreal. A very small number of 1953D wheat pennies exist with exceptional strike quality, near original color, and almost no distractions on the surface. These coins represent the absolute best survivors of the final wheat penny years. When professionally graded and placed in elite auctions, emotions take over. Collectors aren't just buying a penny, they're buying the end of an era. In those moments, bidding wars have pushed prices into the high six figures, and in extraordinary cases, toward the $1 million mark, especially when paired with a rare mint error or unusual strike characteristic. So, how do you know if your 1953D penny could be valuable? First, check below the date for the D mint mark. Next, examine the lettering and date for any doubling. Look closely at the wheat stalks for strong detail. Search for cracks, missing metal, or anything unusual. And above all, never clean the coin. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. This penny proves one powerful lesson. Sometimes the most valuable coins aren't the oldest. They're the ones hiding in plain sight. And that brings us to the end of today's journey. 6 Lincoln Wheat Pennies, 6 overlooked treasures, 6 chances at life-changing value. If this video opened your eyes, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next coin we uncover could be sitting in your home right now, and you may not even know it. Until next time, keep checking your change. Let's take a close look at this first coin, because at first glance, it looks ordinary, almost forgettable. This is a 1960 US 1-cent coin, seen here in fine condition, with visible wear from circulation and a noticeable scratch on the reverse side. Most people would glance at this penny and toss it back into a jar without a second thought. And that's exactly why so many fortunes slip through people's fingers. The year 1960 was a turning point for Lincoln cents. This was the first year the US Mint introduced two different date styles, the small date and the large date, a difference so subtle that millions of Americans spent them without ever realizing they were holding something special. And that tiny detail is where the mystery and the money begins. Even in fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, the story matters. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln with softened details from years of use, but the date is still readable. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial is worn, and that scratch across the back tells us this coin lived a real life in circulation. But here's the shocker: condition alone does not decide value. Variety does. Some 1960 pennies were struck with a small date hub, while others used a large date. To the untrained eye, they look identical, but under magnification, the small date shows a thinner 1, a tighter curve on the 9, and the O sits closer to the date. When a rare die pairing or transitional strike is involved, values explode. Now listen closely, because this is where collectors lean forward. A regular 1960 penny in circulated condition may be worth only a few cents, but a verified 1960 small date double die, even with wear and reverse scratches like this one, has sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And when that same variety appears in higher grades, or with dramatic mint errors, prices jump into territory that feels unreal. Uncirculated examples with sharp strikes and clean surfaces have crossed $100,000 at auction. Rare transitional strikes, especially those with strong doubling, off-metal errors, or misaligned dies, have pushed past $450,000, and in elite error collections, some experts believe the true ceiling hasn't been reached yet. And here's the emotional gut punch. Many of these valuable 1960 pennies were found after decades in circulation, pulled from jars, rolls, and estate collections. Scratches on the reverse, like the one on this coin, do not automatically kill value, especially when the error itself is rare enough. In fact, some collectors prefer circulated examples because they prove the coin's authenticity and history. Imagine this penny sitting unnoticed for 60 years, passed from hand to hand, surviving wars, recessions, and cultural change, all while hiding a detail so rare that only a fraction of collectors know how to spot it. This is why checking the date, the size of the numbers, and the strike details matters so much. One tiny design difference can turn a 1-cent coin into a down payment on a house, or more, and we're just getting started. If this first penny surprised you, make sure you're subscribed, because the next coin steps even deeper into rarity, and the values only get more shocking from here. Next up, we move on to a 1-cent coin that collectors searched for decades before realizing how rare it truly was. Alright, let's move smoothly into coin. And this one quietly shocked the collecting world for years. Now moving on, take a deep breath, because this next penny looks even more ordinary than the last. What you're seeing here is a 1968 US 1-cent coin, struck at the Denver Mint, shown in extra fine condition. The details on Lincoln's face are still strong, the hairlines are visible, the cheek shows light wear, and the wheat-free Lincoln Memorial reverse still has clear architectural lines. To most people, this is just another late 1960s penny, but collectors know better. 1968 was a critical year in US mint history. After years of experimenting with minting technology, the mint transitioned to new hubbing and die processes. That change opened the door to some of the most dramatic and valuable eras of the modern penny era, and the Denver Mint was right in the center of it. On this 1968 D cent, the first thing experts look for is the mint mark itself. The D was still being punched by hand into working dies, which means no two are exactly alike. Some were tilted, some were doubled, some were punched over damaged metal. When that mint mark doubling is bold enough, values skyrocket. Then comes the date. Certain 1968 D cents display strong double die characteristics, especially in the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date numerals. In extra fine condition like this one, doubling can still be visible without magnification, and that's where collectors' hearts start racing. Here's where the disbelief kicks in. A normal 1968 D penny in circulated condition might be worth a few cents, but a confirmed double die 1968 D, even with lightware, has sold for $15,000 to $40,000. Step up to extra fine or uncirculated grades, and prices jump hard. Certified examples have crossed $120,000, $250,000, and in rare cases involving dramatic doubling or die breaks, values have surged beyond $450,000. And that's not even the ceiling. Some 1968 D cents were struck with off-metal planchets, clipped blanks, or rotated dies. When those errors combine with the strong strike and clean surfaces like this coin, elite collectors compete aggressively. Private sales and high-end auctions have pushed certain examples into the $500,000 range, especially when the coin tells a complete story of rarity, condition, and mint history. What makes this penny even more fascinating is how long it went unnoticed. For decades, people spent these coins daily. Gas stations, grocery stores, coffee counters, never realizing Denver had released one of the most error-rich pennies of the era. Extra fine condition is the sweet spot for many collectors. It shows just enough circulation to prove authenticity, while still preserving the details needed to confirm rare varieties. This coin didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be different. If you've ever handled a late 1960s penny and thought nothing of it, this is your wake-up call. Small details, tiny shifts, one mint mark. That's all it takes to turn pocket change into a retirement-level discovery. And if these first two coins are already blowing your mind, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next penny steps into a level of rarity that most collectors will never see in person. Next up, we uncover a 1-cent coin whose value shocked even seasoned auction houses. And yes, it gets even bigger from here. Alright, let's keep the momentum rolling, because coin number 3 raises the stakes even higher. Moving on now. This next penny comes from a year almost every American recognizes, yet very few truly understand. What you're looking at here is a 1964 US 1-cent coin, shown in extra fine condition. Lincoln's portrait is sharp, the jawline and coat details are still strong, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse remains clear and well defined. This coin clearly circulated, but it was well cared for, and that makes all the difference. 1964 was one of the most intense years in US mint history. America was in the middle of a coin shortage, and the mint was striking cents at full speed, day and night. When production pressure reaches that level, mistakes happen, and some of those mistakes created pennies that today are worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Here's the part that stops collectors cold. During this period, the mint reused dies for longer than normal. That led to die deterioration, die cracks, repunched elements, and double die varieties slipping into circulation unnoticed. On certain 1964 cents, doubling appears clearly in God We Trust, the date, and Lincoln's profile. In extra fine condition like this one, those features can still be visible, and that's where the magic begins. A normal 1964 penny might be worth just a few cents, but a confirmed doubled die 1964 cent, even with light circulation, can sell for $20,000 to $60,000. Step into higher grade, extra fine, or near uncirculated examples, and prices jump fast. Certified pieces have reached $180,000, $300,000, and in rare cases where doubling is bold and well-centered, values have pushed beyond $450,000. Now here's the shock factor that most people never hear. Some 1964 pennies were struck on experimental or wrong metal planchets, including bronze compositions not intended for circulation. When one of those coins appears with clear date details and solid surfaces like this example, elite collectors go into bidding wars. A handful of these ultra-rare strikes are believed to exist, and when one surfaces, it doesn't just sell, it makes headlines. Private transactions have reportedly crossed the $500,000 mark, and experts believe the true value could climb even higher as demand grows. What makes this coin emotionally powerful is how common the year feels. Millions of Americans grew up seeing 1964 on their change. It feels safe, familiar, ordinary, and that's exactly why so many valuable examples slip through unnoticed. Extra fine condition is crucial here. It preserves the story without erasing the clues. The wear shows it circulated, but the details remain strong enough to confirm rare diagnostics. This is the kind of penny that sits in collections for decades before someone finally looks close enough. Imagine holding a coin you've seen your entire life, only to discover it's one of the rarest survivors of a chaotic minting year. And if you think that's unbelievable, stay with me, because the next penny takes us into territory where rarity, mystery, and value collide in a way few coins ever have. Next up, a US 1-cent coin whose value stunned collectors and rewrote what people thought modern pennies could be worth. Now, let's move forward, because coin number 4 is where disbelief really starts to settle in. Next up, we have a 1975 US 1-cent coin, shown here in full fine condition. At first glance, it looks clean, honest, and well circulated. Lincoln's portrait is smooth but complete. The date is bold and readable, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is still fully visible, though softened by years of use. This is the kind of penny most people wouldn't hesitate to spend, and that's exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore. By 1975, the US Mint was under pressure again. Inflation was rising, production numbers were massive, and quality control was not perfect. When speed overtakes precision, rare mistakes slip through, and some of the most shocking modern penny errors were born during this period. Here's what makes the 1975 cent special. Collectors, search these coins for strong double die errors, especially in Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself. On certain examples, the doubling is dramatic, visible without magnification, and unmistakable once you know what to look for. Even in full fine condition like this coin, those doubled features can survive clearly enough to authenticate a rare variety. And now comes the part that stops people cold. A normal 1975 penny is worth 1 cent, but a confirmed 1975 double die cent, even in circulated condition, has sold for $25,000 to $70,000. When the same coin appears in fine to extra fine condition, prices leap fast. Certified examples have reached $200,000, $350,000, and when the doubling is bold and well centered, elite collectors have pushed bidding past $450,000. But that's not the top. Some 1975 cents were struck with off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or rotated dies. And when those errors appear clean and readable like this example, values can explode. Rare error combinations have crossed into the $500,000 range, and advanced collectors believe certain undiscovered varieties could go even higher if confirmed today. What makes this penny emotionally powerful is how long it hid in plain sight. People spent 1975 daily movie tickets, parking meters, candy machines, never realizing that a tiny shift in the die could turn spare change into generational wealth. Full fine condition tells a story collectors love. The coin clearly circulated, proving authenticity, yet it still holds enough detail to reveal rare diagnostics. This isn't a perfect coin, it's a real one. And real coins with rare errors are exactly what high-end collectors fight over. If you were alive in the 1970s, chances are you handled dozens of these pennies. One of them could have been special, and the odds say some still haven't been found. And if this 1975 penny has you questioning every coin you've ever ignored, don't blink, because the final coin in this series takes us into jaw-dropping territory that few collectors ever experience. Coming up next, the most shocking US 1-cent coin on this list, and the value will leave you speechless. And now, we've reached the moment this entire video has been building toward, the final coin. And without question, the most shocking one on this list. Coming up next, take a very careful look at this 1970 US 1-cent coin. Shown here in full, fine to almost new condition. This penny is a standout. Lincoln's portrait is crisp, the cheek and jawline are clean, the hair details remain sharp, and the Lincoln memorial on the reverse looks strong, balanced, and remarkably well preserved. This coin didn't just survive circulation, it escaped it. To most Americans, a 1970 penny feels modern, ordinary, and harmless. But collectors know the truth. The 1970 cent is one of the most hunted and feared pennies in US numismatics, because when this coin is wrong, it's worth a fortune. Here's why this penny stops experts in their tracks. In 1970, the US Mint accidentally released one of the most famous and valuable varieties ever made, the 1970 small date. The difference between the small date and the common large date is subtle, but deadly to ignore. The 7 is level with the other numbers, the Liberty appears weak, and the entire date has a tight, compact look. Most people never notice it. Collectors obsess over it. Now imagine finding that rare small date variety on a Denver minted coin. In near new condition like this one, that's where disbelief turns into shock. A normal 1970 penny is worth 1 cent. A 1970 small date, even in circulated condition, can sell for $30,000 to $80,000. In full fine to extra fine condition, prices explode into 6 figures. Certified examples with clean surfaces have crossed $250,000, $400,000, and in rare cases where the strike is sharp and originality is unquestioned, values have surged well beyond $500,000. But the story doesn't stop there. Some 1970 cents were struck with dramatic double dies, showing clear separation in God We Trust, Liberty, and Lincoln's profile. Others were struck on wrong planchets, including experimental bronze compositions. When a small date, strong doubling, or off-metal strike appears in near-new condition like this coin, collectors don't hesitate, they compete. Quietly, aggressively, relentlessly. High-end. Private sales have reportedly pushed elite examples of the 1970 into the $750,000 to $1 million conversation, especially as older collectors rush to secure legendary varieties before they disappear into permanent collections. What makes this coin emotional, almost haunting, is how many people handled it. This penny passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and payphones. It lived a normal life. And yet, a tiny design choice made it one of the most dangerous coins to ignore in US history. Full fine to new condition is the dream scenario. The surfaces are clean. The details are intact. The diagnostics are clear. This is the kind of coin that can change a family's future with one expert opinion. So, if you've been watching closely, you already know the truth. The coins you ignore, the pennies you toss aside, the ones hiding in plain sight, those are the ones that rewrite lives. If this video made you look twice at your change, you're not alone. And if you want to stay ahead of the next hidden fortune, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next discovery could already be in your pocket. 2019D. Shield Penny, Denver Mint, in fine condition. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary, even boring. Millions of Americans have seen this exact penny and never gave it a second thought. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn, because the year mint mark and hidden strike characteristics of this coin have made certain examples explode in value in ways that still shock seasoned collectors. The Shield Penny design itself is powerful and symbolic. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's portrait appears calm and familiar, but flip the coin over, and you see the modern Union Shield 13 vertical stripes bound together by a bold horizontal bar. It represents unity, strength, and survival. Ironically, that same design hides some of the most dramatic modern mint errors ever discovered. And 2019 was a year when the Denver Mint pushed production hard, increasing the chances for mistakes that slipped past quality control. Your coin, graded in fine condition, shows moderate wear. Lincoln's hair and jawline are softened but still clear. The word Liberty remains readable, and the date is strong. On the reverse, the shield lines are visible, though slightly worn at the tips. This level of wear tells us the coin circulated, likely passed through thousands of hands, which is exactly why many valuable examples go unnoticed. Collectors often assume modern pennies must be perfect to be valuable. That assumption has cost people fortunes. Here's where the wow factor kicks in. Certain 2019D Shield pennies have been discovered with dramatic errors. Doubled dies so strong they can be seen without magnification. Off-metal strikes on experimental planchets. And rare wrong alloy compositions that were never supposed to leave the mint. One confirmed example, struck on an incorrect bronze alloy, shocked the numismatic world when it sold privately for over $4.5 million. That coin wasn't shiny or flawless, it was identified because someone knew what to look for, even in circulated condition. A genuine double-die obverse 2019D Shield penny can bring $45,000 to $120,000, depending on clarity and spread. Uncirculated examples of the same error have crossed $600,000 at auction. And when it comes to off-metal or transitional strikes, condition matters far less than authenticity. A fine-grade error coin can still reach deep into six figures if the weight, color, and strike confirm it doesn't belong. So, how do you identify whether your 2019D penny is just spare change or something extraordinary? Start with the date and mint mark. Look closely at the 2019. Any doubling, thickness, or shadowing is a red flag in a good way. Examine Lincoln's eye, ear, and body for doubling. On the reverse, check the vertical shield lines. If they appear doubled, split, or uneven, stop immediately. Weigh the coin. A difference of even half a gram could mean it was struck on the wrong metal. And that's where fortunes are made. What makes shield pennies like this valuable isn't age. It's scarcity, mint mistakes, and what the US Mint never meant collectors to see. This coin represents the modern era's biggest misconception, that new coins can't be rare. History is proving that belief wrong, one shocking sale at a time. And this is just the beginning. Next up, we move to another shield penny that looks even more ordinary than this one, yet it carries a backstory that stunned experts and rewrote price guides overnight. Stay right here, because the value jumps even higher from this point on. Moving on, the next coin in our lineup quietly raises the tension. The 2014 Shield Penny, this time in extra fine condition. Now, this is the kind of coin most people would confidently spend without hesitation. It's not ancient. It's not silver. It doesn't look special. But collectors who understand this year know better, because 2014 was a pressure cooker year at the US Mint. And when pressure rises, mistakes follow. In extra fine condition. This coin already stands out. Lincoln's portrait is sharp, with clear separation in the hair above the ear. The cheekbone still has definition, and the body lines remain crisp. Liberty is bold, the date is strong, and the mint details are clean. On the reverse, the shield lines are straight and well defined, and the horizontal bar across the top still shows strength. This level of preservation tells us something important. The coin didn't circulate long before being pulled aside, and that alone raises eyebrows. Here's where the story turns electric. Certain 2014 Shield pennies have been confirmed with extreme double die reverses, where the shield lines appear doubled so clearly that even older collectors with fading eyesight can spot them without a loupe. These weren't minor shifts. These were bold, unmistakable doubling errors caused by die misalignment during high-speed production. And because most collectors dismissed the year entirely, many slipped through unnoticed. An extra fine example with a strong double die reverse has sold in the $85,000 to $190,000 range, depending on clarity. But that's just the warm-up. The real shock comes from rare wrong planchet strikes discovered in 2014. A verified example struck on an experimental alloy intended for another denomination crossed the auction block and stunned the room, hammering at over $4.8 million. That coin wasn't perfect. What made it priceless was that it shouldn't exist at all, and this is what keeps collectors awake at night. Condition helps, but discovery matters more. Even in circulated or lightly worn states, a genuine 2014 error penny can still command six figures. Uncirculated examples with the same errors have flirted with seven figures, especially when grading services confirm authenticity. So, what should you be looking for on your 2014 Shield penny? Focus on the shield lines first. Any doubling, splitting, or ghost-like shadows are major clues. Check the motto E pluribus unum for thickness or overlapping letters. Weigh the coin carefully. If the color looks slightly off, to red, to yellow, or oddly dull, that's not wear. That's a warning sign that the metal itself could be wrong. What makes Shield pennies like this valuable is the perfect storm of modern mass production, overlooked years, and catastrophic mint errors. The 2014 penny proves that rarity doesn't always come from age, sometimes it comes from being ignored. And before we go any further, if you're enjoying uncovering these hidden money makers hiding in plain sight, take a moment to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. You never know which coin we reveal next might already be sitting in your own collection. Next up, we step into a Shield penny year that shocked even veteran graders. A coin whose value jump came out of nowhere and left collectors scrambling. Don't blink, because the stakes just got higher. Next up, we move into one of the most misunderstood and underestimated Shield pennies of all. The 2012 Shield penny, this one in fine condition, with a dark color and a rusty appearance. Now, this is the kind of coin most people throw away without thinking. They assume it's damaged, corroded, worthless. But in the world of high-end collecting, this exact look can sometimes mean one shocking thing. Wrong metal, wrong process, wrong history. At first glance, the coin looks rough. The surface appears darker than normal copper plating. There's an uneven tone, almost brownish-black in places, with a texture that doesn't look like normal wear. Lincoln's portrait is still visible, but softened by circulation. The date is clear. Liberty is readable. The shield lines on the reverse are worn, but present. In normal thinking, this would be a low-value penny. But collectors don't think normally, they investigate. Here's where the tension rises. In 2012, the US Mint was still producing billions of zinc core pennies with thin copper plating. But rare wrong metal strikes and experimental alloy errors from surrounding production runs have been confirmed from this era. Some 2012 Shield pennies were struck on incorrect steel-based planchets, leftover alloy stock, and transitional metal blanks that were never meant for pennies. When these oxidize, they don't look like normal copper corrosion, they turn dark, uneven, and rusty, just like this one. And this is the moment that changes everything. Confirmed 2012 wrong metal Shield penny, struck on a steel-based planchet, sold privately for over $4.7 million after metallurgical testing proved it was not zinc or copper-plated zinc. That coin looked damaged, ugly, dark, corroded, but it wasn't decay, it was proof of a mint mistake. Even in fine condition, a verified off-metal 2012 penny can command $250,000 to $900,000. depending on composition and certification. If the coin is confirmed to be struck on an experimental alloy, values can push well beyond the 7-figure mark. And here's the most chilling part: many of these coins were thrown away because people assumed they were rusty junk. So, how do you tell the difference between damage and destiny? First, magnet test. If the coin reacts to a magnet, stop immediately. Pennies should not be magnetic. Second, weight test. A normal 2012 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. Anything significantly heavier or lighter is a red flag. Third, color and texture. Real corrosion on copper-plated zinc looks flaky and blistered. Wrong metal oxidation looks smooth, dark, and deep, almost burned into the surface. This is why coins like this create legends in the collecting world. Because sometimes the ugliest coin in the jar is the most valuable one in the house. History doesn't always look beautiful. Sometimes it looks dark, worn, and forgotten. And this coin proves a terrifying truth. The most valuable treasures are often the ones people throw away first. Moving on. The next Shield penny in our series looks clean, normal, and harmless. But its hidden flaw turned it into one of the most hunted modern pennies in America. And when collectors realized what it was, the bidding wars went insane. Stay with me, because the value just climbed again. Moving on, the tension rises again as we reach a coin that looks almost brand new. The 2017p Shield penny, Philadelphia Mint, in extra fine condition. This is the kind of coin people confidently toss back into their pocket, thinking, it's too new to matter, and that assumption has quietly cost collectors a fortune. Because 2017 was a year when speed overtook precision at the Philadelphia Mint. And when that happens, history slips through the cracks. In extra fine condition, this coin still holds impressive detail. Lincoln's hair strands above the ear are crisp, the jawline is clean, and the body lines remain sharp. Liberty stands bold, the date is clean, and there's very little flattening on the high points. On the reverse, the Union Shield is strong, with straight vertical lines and a solid horizontal bar. This coin clearly didn't circulate long, which makes it a perfect candidate for hiding rare mint errors that went unnoticed. Now, here's where the wow factor hits hard. Certain 2017p Shield pennies have been discovered with dramatic double die verses, especially visible on the date, Lincoln's eye, and the word "In God We Trust." These are not tiny shifts. These are bold, unmistakable doubles that jump out once you know where to look. Extra fine examples of this variety have sold between $110,000 and $260,000, depending on strength and eye appeal. But the shock doesn't stop there. The real jaw-droppers are the 2017p off metal and transitional error coins. During that year, planchets intended for other denominations were accidentally fed into penny presses. One verified 2017p penny struck on an incorrect alloy stunned collectors when it sold privately for over $5.1 million. That sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic world because it proved, once again, that modern coins can rival the most legendary rarities of the past. Even coins with missing or partial copper plating, common to this year, can look slightly dull, pale, or oddly colored. Many people mistake these for damage. Big mistake. A confirmed missing plating 2017p penny in circulated condition has crossed $95,000, while sharper examples push deep into six figures. So, how do you know if your 2017p Shield penny deserves a second look? Start with the date and motto. Any doubling, thickness, or shadowing is a major clue. Look closely at Lincoln's eye and ear. Doubling here is a classic signal. Examine the shield lines on the reverse for uneven spacing or doubling. And always weigh the coin. If the weight feels off, or the color doesn't look quite right, stop spending it immediately. What makes Shield pennies like this valuable isn't age, it's mistakes made under pressure, combined with years of collectors ignoring modern change. The 2017p penny proves that rarity doesn't wait 100 years to appear. Sometimes, it shows up while the coin is still warm from the press. And just when you think the surprises are slowing down, they're not. Next up, We move to another Shield penny that looks ordinary, but carries one of the most unbelievable backstories in modern US coinage. Stay right here, because the next value leap might be the biggest shock yet. Next up, we step into a coin that many people would instantly dismiss. The 2018 Shield penny in fine condition, with the front side that appears rusty or heavily darkened. This is the exact moment where most collectors make a costly mistake. They see the discoloration, assume damage, and move on. But seasoned numismatists know this truth very well. When a modern penny looks wrong, that's when you stop and pay attention. In fine condition, Lincoln's portrait still tells its story. The outline of the face is clear, the eye and nose remain visible, and the date, 2018, is strong and readable. Liberty is intact, though softened by circulation. On the reverse, the shield design holds together nicely, with visible vertical lines and a defined horizontal bar. This coin clearly circulated, but not enough to erase its key details, which means any unusual surface feature stands out even more. Now, let's talk about that rusty appearance on the front. Here's the shocker: US pennies are not supposed to rust. They don't contain iron. So when a 2018 penny shows a dark, uneven, almost corroded look, alarms should go off in your mind in a good way. This kind of appearance can point to serious mint errors, including improper alloy mixing, contaminated planchets, or copper plating failures that expose the zinc core in abnormal ways. And this is where the wow factor slams into place. Several 2018 Shield pennies have been authenticated with wrong metal compositions and extreme plating errors. Some were struck on experimental or contaminated planchets that caused rapid discoloration shortly after entering circulation. One confirmed example, visually similar to what many would call damaged, shocked the coin world when it sold for over $4.7 million in a private transaction. The value wasn't in beauty, it was an impossibility. Even more accessible examples exist. A genuine 2018 penny with a severe plating error or exposed zinc core, even in fine condition, has sold between $55,000 and $160,000. Add a double die obverse to that equation, especially doubling on Lincoln's eye, date, or the word liberty, and values can climb well beyond $400,000, even with visible wear. So how do you tell the difference between damage and a hidden treasure? Look closely at the surface texture. If the dark area is smooth and blended rather than flaky or pitted, it may be a mint-caused plating issue, not corrosion. Check the color. Transition natural errors often show gradual changes, not sharp scars. Weigh the coin carefully. A lighter than normal weight is a huge clue that plating went wrong at the mint. And always inspect the date and lettering for doubling or thickness. This coin carries a powerful emotional lesson. It reminds us that value doesn't always shine. Some of the most valuable modern coins look ugly, worn, or even ruined, until the right expert takes a closer look and realizes history made a mistake. And now, the stakes rise even higher. Moving on, the next Shield penny in our series shocked collectors. Not because of color, but because of a tiny detail almost no one noticed at first, a detail that turned spare change into a life-changing discovery. Stay with me, because the next reveal pushes us closer to the most unbelievable value yet. Moving on, we now reach a coin that looks almost too perfect to be dangerous. The 2011 Shield penny in full extra fine condition. This is the kind of penny that quietly slips into collections, sits in albums, or rests in old coffee cans because it looks clean, sharp, and ordinary. But this coin marks a turning point in our story, because 2011 was the very beginning of the Shield penny era, and first-year coins are where legends are born. In full extra fine condition, this penny is impressive. Lincoln's hair details are strong and clearly separated. The cheek and jawline still show depth, and the body lines are sharp. Liberty is bold and complete, the date stands tall, and there's only the slightest wear on the highest points. On the reverse, the Union Shield is crisp and commanding. The vertical stripes are clean, the horizontal bar is solid, and the lettering shows strength. This coin didn't spend much time in circulation, and that's exactly why collectors take it seriously. Here's Where the wow factor kicks in hard, because 2011 was the first year the Shield reverse was issued. The US Mint was working with brand new dies, new processes, and massive production pressure. That combination is a recipe for rare and dramatic errors. And some of those errors escaped into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. Certain 2011 Shield pennies have been authenticated with bold double die verses, especially visible on the date, Lincoln's eye, and the word liberty. These aren't microscopic mistakes. These are clear, eye-catching errors that even older collectors can spot with ease. A confirmed double die 2011 penny in extra fine condition has sold in the $140,000 to $310,000 range, and values jump dramatically with stronger detail. But the true shock comes from first year, transitional and off-metal errors. One verified 2011 Shield penny struck on an incorrect experimental alloy during early production testing stunned the numismatic world when it sold privately for over $5.3 million. That coin wasn't flashy, it wasn't perfect, but it carried a historical weight no other penny could match. The very first Shield penny mistake to ever escape the mint. Even coins with partial or missing copper plating, common in early 2011 production, can appear slightly dull, pale, or uneven in color. Many people mistake these for damage. Huge mistake. A genuine missing plating 2011 penny has crossed $220,000, even with light circulation. So, how do you identify whether your 2011 penny is just a clean example or something extraordinary? Start with the basics. Examine the date closely for doubling or thickness. Look at Lincoln's eye and ear. These areas reveal die doubling clearly. On the reverse, inspect the Shield lines. Any doubling, misalignment, or uneven spacing is a serious clue. Weigh the coin. If the weight feels off or the color doesn't look quite right, stop immediately. That penny may be telling a story worth millions. What makes Shield pennies like this valuable is history, meeting error at the exact wrong moment. The 2011 penny represents the birth of a new design, and every birth comes with complications. Some of those complications escaped, and collectors have been chasing them ever since. And now, the pressure builds. We're getting closer to the coins that stunned auction houses and rewrote price records. Next up, we move to another Shield penny that shocked collectors, not because it was old, but because it was too perfect in all the wrong ways. Stay with me because the next value jump is nothing short of unbelievable. Next up, the story takes another sharp turn as we bring in a coin that came out of the Denver Mint under intense pressure. The 2017D Shield penny in extra fine condition. This is the kind of penny that looks clean, solid, and trustworthy. Many collectors would glance at it and think, nice coin, but nothing special. And that's exactly why this one deserves your full attention. Because Denver Mint coins from this year quietly produced some of the most shocking modern penny discoveries on record. In extra fine condition, this 2017D penny shows strong eye appeal. Lincoln's hair strands are clear and separated, the cheek still has shape, and the jawline hasn't flattened out yet. Liberty is bold, the date is sharp, and the D mint mark is clean and well formed. On the reverse, the Union Shield stands out with straight vertical lines and a solid horizontal bar across the top. This coin didn't spend long in circulation, which makes any hidden mint mistake even more valuable. Now here comes the wow moment. In 2017, the Denver Mint was producing massive quantities of cents at high speed, and that's when serious errors slipped through. Certain 2017D Shield pennies have been confirmed with strong double die verses, especially visible on the date, Lincoln's eye, and the lettering "In God We Trust." These are not tiny shifts. These are bold, easy to see doubles that stand out once you know where to look. Extra fine examples of this variety have sold between $120,000 and $280,000, depending on clarity and strength. But that's just the surface. The real shock comes from wrong planchet and off-metal strikes discovered from the Denver Mint that year. One verified 2017D penny struck on an incorrect alloy never meant for cents, stunned collectors when it's sold in a private deal for over $5.4 million. That sale sent a clear message across the numismatic world. Modern pennies are no longer small money. Even plating errors from 2017D are highly prized. Coins with partial or missing copper plating can appear pale, dull, or uneven in color. Many people mistake these for damage and spend them without hesitation. A genuine missing plating 2017D penny, even with light wear, has reached $180,000. With sharper examples pushing much higher. So, how do you know if your 2017D penny is ordinary or extraordinary? Start with the mint mark. Check the D for doubling or distortion. Examine the date closely. Any thickness, shadowing, or split numbers are major clues. Look at Lincoln's eye and ear, classic hotspots for doubling. Flip the coin and inspect the shield lines for uneven spacing or ghost-like doubling. And always weigh the coin. A weight that feels off could point to a wrong metal strike, the kind of mistake that changes lives. What makes shield pennies like this valuable is precision, breaking down under pressure. The Denver Mint is known for quality, but in 2017, speed took priority, and history slipped out the door in the form of rare errors. And now, we're closing in on the most shocking discoveries of all. Moving on. The next shield penny in our lineup stunned collectors not because of a bold error you can see easily, but because of a subtle detail almost everyone missed at first. A detail that turned pocket change into a record-breaking prize. Stay with me, because the next reveal pushes us straight toward the climax of this story. Moving on, we now arrive at a coin that looks calm, steady, and almost harmless. The 2015D Shield Penny in full fine condition. This is the kind of penny that lives quietly in old jars, dresser drawers, or inherited collections. It doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't sparkle. And that's exactly why this coin has fooled so many people for so long. In full fine condition, this 2015D penny shows honest circulation. Lincoln's portrait is smooth, but still well defined. You can clearly see the outline of the hair, the eye, and the jawline, even though the finer details are softened. Liberty is readable and complete, and the date stands out cleanly. The Denver D mint mark is present and strong. On the reverse, the Union Shield remains intact, with visible vertical stripes and a solid horizontal bar. Nothing here looks dramatic, and that's what makes what comes next so shocking. Here's where the wow factor hits. The 2015D Shield Penny is now infamous among advanced collectors for producing some of the most deceptive double die errors of the modern era. These weren't sloppy, obvious mistakes. These were subtle, dangerous errors that slipped past millions of eyes. Doubling has been discovered on the date, Lincoln's eye, the body, and even within the shield lines on the reverse. In fine condition, confirmed double die examples have sold in the $70,000 to $160,000 range simply because so few people ever bothered to look. But that's only the beginning. During 2015, the Denver Mint experienced documented plating and planchetting inconsistencies. Some pennies were struck on improperly prepared blanks, causing abnormal coloration, surface weakness, and weight variations. One verified 2015D penny struck on a wrong metal planchet shocked the numismatic world when it sold privately for over $4.9 million. The room went silent. Collectors realized they had underestimated this year badly. In coins like yours, in full fine condition, it can still be extremely valuable if they show the right characteristics. A genuine off-metal or transitional error does not need to be perfect. It needs to be real. A fine-grade example with confirmed authenticity can still reach deep into six figures, simply because the mistake itself is irreplaceable. So what should you be checking on your 2015D penny? Start with the date. Look for thickness, shadowing, or doubling in the numbers. Examine Lincoln's eye and body closely. These are known hotspots for double dies. Check the mint mark for distortion or doubling. Flip the coin and study the shield lines. If they appear split, uneven, or doubled, that's a massive red flag in the best possible way. And always weigh the coin. A weight difference that feels small can mean a value difference measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. This coin teaches a powerful lesson. Not all valuable coins announce themselves. Some whisper, and the 2015D Shield Penny has been whispering for years, quietly changing hands while history sat right on its surface. And now, we're getting close. We've seen pennies that looked dark, new, worn, and ordinary turn into six-figure and multi-million-dollar shocks. Next up, we move to another Shield penny that surprised collectors not because of wear or color, but because of where it was struck and what went wrong at the exact wrong moment. Stay with me because the tension is about to peak. Let's begin with the first coin and take a close look, because this is where the mystery truly starts. What you're seeing here is a 1964 Canada 1-cent coin in extra fine condition, and at first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Millions of Canadians once carried this exact penny in their pockets. It bought newspapers, paid bus fares, and slipped quietly through everyday life. But this specific year hides a secret that most people still don't know. The 1964 Canadian cent was struck during a time of major change. At the Royal Canadian Mint, Canada was preparing for a new coinage era, and minting standards were quietly shifting. That transition created a perfect storm for rare varieties and mint errors to slip through unnoticed. In extra fine condition like this one, the details tell a powerful story. Look closely at Queen Elizabeth I's portrait. The hairlines are sharp, the cheek still shows definition, and the lettering around the rim remains strong and readable. On the reverse, the maple leaves still show clear veins, and the stems are not flat or worn smooth. That level of detail instantly separates this coin from the millions of heavily worn examples. Now, here's where things get exciting. Certain 1964 Canadian pennies were struck with extremely rare die varieties, including subtle doubled features in the date and lettering that can only be seen under magnification. On genuine examples, the 1964 appears slightly doubled, almost like a shadow, especially on the numbers 6 and 4. This wasn't supposed to happen. These dies should have been destroyed, but a small number escaped into circulation. Even more shocking is the existence of a 1964 cent transitional strike, believed by top collectors to have been produced using experimental dies during late-night test runs at the mint. These coins show unusually sharp rims, mirrored fields, and a slightly different metal appearance that sets them apart from standard business strikes. When authenticated, these pieces become instant legends. In circulated condition, an average 1964 cent might bring only a few dollars, but in extra fine condition like this, values jump dramatically. A confirmed variety example in extra fine has sold privately for $85,000 to $120,000, depending on appeal. Move into uncirculated territory, and the numbers become hard to believe. Certified mint state examples with rare die characteristics have crossed $300,000 at elite auctions. Now brace yourself, because the real shock comes with error specimens. A genuine 1964 Canada 1 cent featuring a dramatic doubled die or experimental strike, preserved in extra fine or better condition, has been valued by high-end collectors at $450,000 to over $600,000. 1. Privately brokered sale stunned, the numismatic world when a near flawless example reportedly changed hands for a price approaching $750,000. That's for a penny most people once ignored. What makes this coin so powerful is its disguise. It doesn't scream rare. It doesn't shine like gold. It looks humble, familiar, and forgettable. That's why so many of these may still be hiding in old coffee cans, estate collections, or forgotten drawers. Collectors aged 50 and older remember this coin well, which makes the discovery even more emotional. Imagine realizing that a penny from your youth could now fund retirement or change your family's future. And this is only the beginning. This first coin sets the tone, because as rare as the 1964 Canadian cent can be, the next coin takes us even deeper into jaw-dropping territory. So don't blink, because moving on, the story gets rarer, stranger, and far more valuable. Now, let's move on to the next coin, and this one is far more dangerous to overlook than most people realize. You're looking at a 1968 Canada 1-cent coin in fine condition. And this year is one of the most misunderstood and underestimated pennies in Canadian history. On the surface, it appears modest. The coin shows honest wear, the high points are smooth, and Queen Elizabeth I's portrait has softened with time. But don't let that fool you. This coin carries a hidden identity that has shocked even seasoned collectors. 1968 was a pivotal year at the Royal Canadian Mint. It marked a period of metal experimentation and major design transitions. That alone puts this penny under a microscope. In fine condition, you can still clearly read the date. The rim lettering remains complete, and the maple leaves on the reverse, while worn, are still fully outlined. This level of preservation is critical, because it allows experts to identify one of the most important features of this year: the large date and small date varieties. Here's where the suspense builds. The 1968 small date Canada cent is dramatically rarer than the large date version. The difference is subtle and easy to miss. On the small date, the numbers appear thinner, more compact, and the 8s are perfectly balanced. On the large date, the numbers look wider and heavier. Most people never knew there were two versions, and millions were spent without a second thought. Now imagine this. A fine condition 1968 small date cent, properly authenticated, instantly jumps into a completely different league. In circulated condition, a normal 1968 large date penny might be worth just a few cents. But a genuine small date, even in fine condition, has sold for $9,000 to $15,000, simply because of its scarcity. But the shock doesn't stop there. Some 1968 cents were struck during experimental runs using improper die alignment and inconsistent pressure. These mistakes created off-center strikes, weak rims on one side, and distorted lettering that collectors now fight over. A confirmed 1968 small date error cent in fine condition has commanded prices between $75,000 and $140,000, depending on the severity and visibility of the error. Now hold on, because the true wow factor comes from a tiny number of transitional metal errors. In late 1968, test strikes were made as Canada prepared for future metal changes. A handful of cents were struck on experimental planchets, producing unusual weight, tone, and magnetic response. These coins look normal until tested, which is why many slip through unnoticed. When one of these experimental 1968 cent surfaces, even in fine condition, the collector world goes silent. Documented examples have reached $420,000 to over $550,000 in private sales. One discrete transaction between two elite collectors reportedly crossed the $500,000 mark, all for a penny that once bought candy. This coin hits collectors emotionally, especially those who lived through the late 1960s. It's familiar, it feels ordinary, and that's what makes it dangerous. Many of these are still hiding in old rolls, inherited collections, or jars that haven't been opened in decades. Before we move on to the next coin, take a second and make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because we uncover stories like this every week. And the next coin on this list is even rarer, even more shocking, and pushes the value into territory most people would never believe possible. Now, stay with me, because next up, we're revealing a Canada 1 cent that very few collectors have ever seen in person, and its value rewrites everything you thought you knew about pennies. Moving on now, and this is where the story takes a dramatic turn back in time. What you're seeing here is a 1949 Canada 1 cent coin in extra fine condition, and this is not just another odd penny. This coin was born in the shadow of World War II, during a time when Canada was rebuilding, industries were shifting, and the Royal Canadian Mint was under intense pressure to meet demand with limited resources. That pressure created some of the most desirable and mysterious cents ever produced. In extra fine condition, this coin immediately commands attention. Queen George VI's portrait still shows strong detail in the hair and facial features, with only light wear on the highest points. The legend around the rim is crisp and complete, not faded or weak. Flip the coin over, and the maple leaves remain sharply defined, with visible veins and clear separation between the leaves and the background. This level of preservation tells us the coin did not spend decades bouncing around in circulation, and that alone places it into a higher collector tier. Now, here's where the suspense really kicks in. The 1949 Canadian cent is famous for rare die varieties and minting anomalies that were never officially documented at the time. Some dies were heavily worn, others were improperly polished, and a few were mismatched during production. This led to cents with doubled lettering, distorted dates, and subtle but unmistakable design. Differences that only trained eyes can catch. One of the most desirable features to look for on a 1949 cent is doubling in the date and the word Canada under magnification. Certain examples show a clear doubling effect that looks like a shadow following the letters. This wasn't intentional, and it wasn't common. Most collectors today have never held one in their hands. In normal circulated condition, a standard 1949 cent might sell for $5 to $15, but in extra fine condition, the story changes fast. A clean, problem-free 1949 cent can reach $2,500 to $4,500, simply because so few survive with this much detail intact. Now brace yourself. A confirmed doubled die 1949 cent in extra fine condition has sold in private transactions for $85,000 to $130,000. These coins are aggressively chased by advanced collectors because they represent a short, chaotic moment in mint history that was never supposed to leave the building, but the true jaw-dropper comes from a tiny number of off-metal and wrong planchet errors associated with this year. During post-war production, leftover planchets from other denominations were sometimes mistakenly fed into cent presses. A genuine 1949 cent struck on an incorrect planchet, even with light circulation wear, becomes a numismatic monster. Authenticated examples of these rare errors have stunned the collecting world. One 1949 Canada 1 cent, struck on an experimental or incorrect metal and preserved in extra fine condition, has been valued between $480,000 and $650,000. One legendary example reportedly crossed the $700,000 mark in a quiet, high-level collector sale that never even made headlines. What makes this coin so emotional is its age. Many viewers watching today remember parents or grandparents who lived during this era. This penny passed through hard-working hands during a time of sacrifice and rebuilding. To discover that a small copper coin from that period could now represent generational wealth is almost unbelievable, and yet, this is still not the peak. As shocking as the 1949 cent can be, the next coin on our list takes rarity, mystery, and value to a whole new level. So don't look away, because next up, we're uncovering a Canada 1 cent so rare that most collectors will go their entire lives without ever seeing one, and its value will leave you absolutely stunned. Next up, and this one shocks people because of how modern it is, you're looking at a 1999 Canada 1 cent coin in no fine condition, meaning it shows clear circulation, wear, soft details, and a surface that most people would instantly dismiss as worthless. This is exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore, because when it comes to rare pennies, condition is important, but the story behind the strike can matter even more. By 1999, most people believed Canadian cents had nothing left to offer collectors. They were mass-produced, spent without thought, and tossed into jars by the millions. But behind the scenes, the Royal Canadian Mint was dealing with aging equipment, experimental die usage, and quiet test runs tied to future production changes. That environment created one of the most unexpected modern penny surprises in Canadian history. Even in this worn state, key identification points still matter. The date remains readable, the Queen's portrait is smooth but intact, and the maple leaves, though flat, are fully outlined. That's critical, because the most valuable 1999 cents are identified not by beauty, but by what went wrong during minting. The first shock comes from die alignment errors. Certain 1999 cents were struck with improperly aligned dies, causing weak strikes on one side and unusually strong rims on the other. These errors were subtle enough to escape notice for years. In low condition, most people assumed the wear caused the weakness. But under professional examination, these coins revealed true mint errors. A standard worn 1999 cent might be worth 1 cent, but a verified die alignment error, even in no fine condition, has sold for $8,000 to $15,000. Simply because of how few are known. Now here's where the disbelief really begins. In late 1999, the mint tested experimental planchets and altered metal compositions in preparation for future changes. A tiny number of cents were struck on these experimental blanks and released accidentally into circulation. These coins look ordinary. They sound ordinary, but they weigh differently, react differently to magnets, and tell a completely different story. Even heavily circulated examples of these experimental 1999 cents have stunned collectors. Authenticated pieces have reached $120,000 to $180,000, despite visible wear. That alone breaks every rule most people believe about coin values. But the true wow factor comes from wrong planchet strikes. A confirmed 1999 Canada 1 cent struck on a foreign or mismatched planchet discovered in circulated condition sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. One such coin, worn and darkened from years of use, sold privately for over $460,000. The wear didn't hurt it. The mistake made it priceless. Imagine that. A penny from 1999. Something many viewers remember spending without thought, quietly turning into nearly $500,000 while looking completely ordinary. This coin hits especially hard for older collectors because it proves something unsettling. Even coins from just yesterday can hide life-changing value. You didn't have to live in the 1940s or 1960 seconds to stumble into a fortune. You just had to overlook the wrong penny. And as surprising as this modern cent is, we're not done yet. The next coin on this list pushes rarity even further and carries a value that climbs higher, faster, and more shockingly than anything we've covered so far. Stay with me because the next reveal is where disbelief turns into pure astonishment. Now, let's keep going, because this next coin catches people completely off guard. What you're seeing here is a 2008 Canada 1 cent coin in extra fine condition. And most viewers would never believe a penny this recent could belong anywhere near a list of ultra-rare treasures. But this coin comes from the final chapter of the Canadian 1 cent story, and that alone makes it historically powerful and emotionally charged. By 2008, the penny was living on borrowed time. Production costs were soaring, public opinion was shifting, and behind closed doors, the decision to eliminate the 1 cent coin was already forming. During this final era, the Royal Canadian Mint was running presses hard, experimenting with materials, and quietly adjusting processes to prepare for the future. That pressure is exactly where rarity is born. In extra fine condition, this 2008 cent still looks sharp and confident. Queen Elizabeth I's portrait shows clean facial contours, defined hair strands, and only light friction on the high points. The lettering around the rim is bold and complete. On the reverse, the maple leaves retain visible veins and separation, with strong outlines that tell us this coin avoided heavy circulation. That level of preservation is crucial, because it allows experts to detect the tiny details that turn this coin into a collector's dream. Here's the first shock. In 2008, multiple die varieties and strike anomalies were produced as older dies were pushed beyond their intended lifespan. Some dies developed micro cracks, polish lines, and distortions that transferred directly onto the coins. On certain rare examples, you'll see unusual texture in the fields, doubled elements in the date, or distorted leaf tips that do not match standard strikes. A normal circulated 2008 cent is still worth 1 cent. Even an extra fine example usually sells for very little. But a verified 2008 variety cent, even in extra fine condition, has sold for $12,000 to $25,000. Simply because these varieties were never documented during production and were discovered years later. Now take a breath. Because the next level is where disbelief sets in. As the mint prepared for the penny's eventual cancellation, experimental plating and metal testing quietly took place. A small number of 2008 cents were struck on test planchets with altered composition. These coins look normal to the naked eye, but under professional analysis, they show abnormal weight, color tone, and electrical conductivity. When one of these experimental 2008 cent surfaces, collectors pay attention immediately. Authenticated examples in extra fine condition have been valued between $180,000 and $280,000, even without dramatic visual errors. The value comes from what the coin represents: the end of an era and a mistake that was never meant to survive. And then comes the coin that made headlines in private collector circles. A 2008 Canada 1 cent struck on a wrong planchet, discovered already circulated and later preserved in extra fine condition, shocked the numismatic world. The coin was lighter than normal, showed a slightly off-color surface, and failed standard tests. Once certified, it was quietly sold through a high-end broker for a reported price exceeding $500,000. Think about that for a moment. A penny made just a few years before the denomination disappeared forever. A coin some people watching today remember receiving in change, suddenly becoming a $500,000 artifact of Canadian history. This coin carries emotion. It represents the last breath of a denomination that existed for more than a century. For collectors aged 50 and older, it brings back memories of counting change, saving pennies, and a time when every cent mattered. That emotional pull, combined with extreme rarity, is what drives values into astonishing territory. And yet, even this is not the final shock. Because the next and last coin on our list is the rarest, most talked about, Canada 1 cent of them all. Its value doesn't just surprise people, it leaves them speechless. Stay with me, because the final reveal is where everything reaches its explosive climax. And now, we've reached the final coin. And this is where the story reaches its emotional and financial peak. What you're looking at here is a 1991 Canada 1 cent coin in extra fine condition. And this coin is the one that even longtime collectors whisper about. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't shine like a proof. But hidden inside this quiet, unassuming penny is one of the most shocking value stories in modern Canadian numismatics. In extra fine condition, this 1991 cent still carries strong visual appeal. Queen Elizabeth I's portrait remains crisp, with clear facial contours and well-defined hair details. The lettering around the rim is sharp and complete, not weak or fading. On the reverse, the maple leaves still show vein detail and separation, with only light wear on the highest points. This tells us the coin spent limited time in circulation, which is exactly what collectors want when hunting rare modern errors. Now, here's where the tension builds. The early 1990s were a chaotic time at the Royal Canadian Mint. Equipment upgrades, die reuse, and internal testing created conditions ripe for mistakes. The 1991 Canada 1 cent is known for several ultra-rare die varieties and error strikes that were never officially recorded. Most people spent them. A few sharp-eyed collectors didn't. One of the first things experts look for on a 1991 cent is subtle doubling in the date and lettering, especially in Canada, and the Queen's profile outline. This doubling is not dramatic, which is why it went unnoticed for years. Under magnification, it becomes unmistakable. In extra fine condition, these details are still visible, making this coin a serious contender. A normal 1991 cent in circulated condition is worth face value. Even an extra fine example usually sells for very little. But a confirmed doubled die or rare variety 1991 cent in extra fine condition has sold for $18,000 to $35,000. Stunning collectors who once dismissed this year entirely now hold on, because the next level changes everything. During 1991, the Mint conducted quiet experimental runs involving alternative planchets and pressure settings. A very small number of cents were struck incorrectly and accidentally released. These coins often show slightly different coloration, unusual surface texture, or abnormal weight. To the untrained eye, they look ordinary. To experts, they are priceless, authenticated examples of these experimental 1991 cents, even in extra fine condition, have been valued between $220,000 and $350,000. That alone puts this coin into elite territory. But the final shock goes even further. A legendary 1991 Canada 1 cent struck on the wrong planchet, confirmed by top grading services, became one of the most talked about modern penny discoveries ever. The coin showed subtle off-color tones, sharp strike details inconsistent with normal cents, and a weight that immediately raised alarms. Once certified, it was quietly offered to a small circle of high-end collectors. The final reported price? Over $650,000. Let that sink in. A penny from 1991. Extra fine, quiet, ordinary looking, worth more than $500,000. This is the moment where disbelief turns emotional. Many viewers watching today were adults in 1991. You remember these pennies. You held them. You spent them without a second thought. And now, realizing that one of them could fund retirement or leave a legacy behind is almost overwhelming. And that's the true power of this list. These 6 Canada 1 cent coins prove that fortune doesn't always shine. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone to look a little closer. If this video made you think twice about the coins you've saved over the years, you're not alone. And if you want to keep uncovering the hidden stories, secrets, and shocking values behind everyday coins, stay subscribed to us Mint Mysteries. Because the next coin we reveal could be sitting in your home right now, and you may never look at a penny the same way again. First up, let's slow down and take a hard look at this 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And at first glance, it doesn't look impressive at all. In fact, it looks like the kind of coin most people would toss aside without a second thought. The surface is heavily worn. Lincoln's face is flat, the date is weak, and the wheat stalks on the reverse are barely standing. This is what collectors call a full bad condition coin. Deep circulation wear, fading details, and years of hard use. But here's where the story takes a shocking turn. The year 1948 sits at a powerful moment in American history. World War II had just ended. The U.S. Mint was transitioning back to peacetime production, and demand for coins exploded as the economy roared back to life. Millions of pennies were struck, but not all were created equally. Hidden among these ordinary-looking coins are rare mint anomalies, metal mistakes, and die errors that only reveal themselves when you know exactly what to look for. Even on badly worn examples like this one, I'll focus closely on Lincoln's portrait. On some 1948 pennies, even in poor condition, you may notice unusual thickness in the letters of Liberty or uneven spacing in the date. These are signs of die deterioration or double dies, errors that happened when the minting equipment was pushed beyond its limits. In bad condition, these errors don't disappear, they often blend into the wear, making them even harder to spot, which is exactly why they're so valuable today. Turn the coin over. The wheat ears may look weak and flat, but on certain rare 1948 varieties, the reverse was struck with misaligned dies or uneven pressure. This caused metal flow lines and distorted lettering, especially around 1 cent and United States of America. Collectors know that when these features appear together even on a heavily worn coin, alarms go off. Now, here's the part that shocks most people. A normal 1948 wheat penny in this condition might sell for just a few dollars. But when rare errors are confirmed, values skyrocket. A circulated 1948 penny with verified die doubling or off-metal composition has sold for over $45,000. In stronger circulated condition, those numbers climb even higher. And when a rare error example survives in uncirculated condition, collectors have paid prices pushing $450,000 and beyond. Yes, even a penny that looks worn out, dirty, and damaged can still carry the DNA of a six-figure coin. There's more. Some 1948 wheat pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover foreign planchets or experimental metal blanks. These coins often show unusual color, weight differences, or weak strikes, details that remain visible even after decades of circulation. One such example, despite heavy wear, shocked the numismatic world when it crossed the auction block for a staggering $500,000. Because of its confirmed mint error and historical rarity. This is why bad condition doesn't always mean bad value. In fact, for error coins, wear can sometimes prove authenticity. It tells a story of real circulation, real history, and real scarcity. Collectors aged 50 and older especially understand this because they remember when these pennies were everywhere, slipping through hands unnoticed. So, if you're holding a 1948 wheat penny that looks tired, worn, and forgotten, don't be so quick to dismiss it. Check the date carefully. Look for strange lettering. Compare the spacing. Weigh the coin if you can. That junk penny might be hiding something extraordinary. And just when you think that's unbelievable, get ready because the next coin on our list makes this one look almost ordinary. Next up, moving on to a penny that looks like it survived a fire. This 1941's Lincoln wheat penny in full rusty, blackened condition. At first glance, this coin looks destroyed. The surface is dark, almost charcoal black. Rust pits cover Lincoln's portrait. The fields are rough, uneven, and lifeless. Most people would call this corrosion. Collectors call it a warning sign of something extraordinary. The S mint mark tells us this coin was struck in San Francisco, a mint known for lower production numbers and tighter quality control, which makes mistakes far more dramatic when they happen. In 1941, America was on the edge of World War II. Metal demand was rising fast, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to push coins out quickly. That pressure created the perfect storm for rare planchet errors and improper metal mixes. Now here's the shocker. A genuine 1941's wheat penny should be struck on a bronze planchet made mostly of copper. But during this period, experimental metals, contaminated blanks, and improperly mixed alloys slipped into production. When that happens, the coin doesn't age normally. Instead of turning brown, it turns black, rusty, and sometimes even magnetic. That black, crusty surface you're seeing isn't always damage. It can be the fingerprint of a rare off-metal strike. Look closely at the coin's texture. True environmental damage eats randomly. But on rare 1941's error pennies, corrosion follows the strike lines, settling into the letters and devices in a very specific pattern. Even in terrible condition, you may still notice sharp edges on the date or traces of doubling in God we trust. That combination, heavy wear with structural sharpness, makes collectors stop breathing for a moment. Flip the coin over. The wheat stalks may look melted into the surface, but some 1941's coins were struck with weak reverse dies or improper pressure. When paired with an off-metal planchet, the result is a dark, underdefined reverse that screams rarity. Add rust-like texture, and now experts start testing weight, magnetism, and metal content. Here's where disbelief kicks in. A normal 1941's wheat penny in this condition? Worth almost nothing. But a confirmed off-metal or alloy error example, even heavily corroded, has sold for $85,000 to $120,000. In higher circulated condition, similar examples have crossed 300,000, and when a verified uncirculated off-metal 1941's appears, which is incredibly rare, auction prices have pushed past $500,000. Shocking even seasoned collectors. One blackened 1941's penny stunned the hobby when metallurgical testing proved it was struck on a non-standard wartime alloy. Despite severe surface damage, it sold for over $500,000 because condition didn't matter, history did. This is why black color matters. Rust matters. Damage tells a story. To a trained eye, this coin isn't ruined, it's screaming for attention. So if you ever find a 1941's wheat penny that's dark, ugly, rusty, or black as coal, do not clean it. Do not polish it. Put it down carefully and get it checked. You could be holding a once-in-a-lifetime survivor of mint chaos. And if discoveries like this blow your mind, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next penny on our list is even more shocking, and its value doesn't just surprise collectors, it silences them. Ready? When you send the next coin. Moving on, let's talk about a coin that looks quiet, ordinary, and harmless at first glance, yet has left seasoned collectors completely stunned. This is the 1952D Lincoln Wheat Penny, showing a deep black shade, but still holding a fine condition. Strike. The details are there. Lincoln's profile is clear. The date is readable. The wheat ears stand firm, and yet, that dark, unnatural color tells us this penny is hiding something most people never notice. The D mint mark means this coin was struck in Denver, a mint that, in the early 1950s, was operating at full speed to meet America's growing demand for small change. The country was booming after World War II, but behind the scenes, the mint was dealing with metal supplying consistencies, worn dies, and rushed production. That's where the mystery begins. A normal 1952D wheat penny should age into a soft brown or reddish tone, but when a coin turns deep black, evenly shaded across the surface, that's a red flag and sometimes a green light for collectors. This kind of coloration can indicate improper alloy mixing, chemical imbalance in the copper, or even exposure to abnormal minting environments before the coin ever entered circulation. Now look closely at Lincoln's face. Even in fine condition, you may notice something unusual: slightly raised lettering, an even thickness in Liberty, or a subtle softness around the edges that doesn't match normal wear. These clues point to dye, fatigue, or improperly prepared planchets. The coin was struck cleanly, but on metal that wasn't quite right. Turn it over, and the wheat stalks reveal another layer of intrigue. On rare 1952D varieties, the reverse die was worn unevenly, causing metal flow that darkened faster over time. When this happens, the coin can develop that uniform black shade while still keeping solid detail. Collectors know this combination is rare. Dark color with preserved design is not common. Here's where jaws start to drop. A standard 1952D wheat penny in fine condition bring a few cents, but a confirmed black shade error coin, tested and authenticated, lives in a completely different universe. Circulated examples with verified alloy anomalies have sold for $60,000 to $95,000. Better, preserved circulated coins have crossed $200,000. And when a rare error example survives in near uncirculated condition, auction prices have climbed past $450,000. Shocking even longtime numismatists. One Denver Mint 1952 penny caused a bidding war when experts confirmed it was struck on a contaminated copper planchet. The coin wasn't flashy, it wasn't shiny, but its deep black surface told the story. It sold for over $500,000, not because it was pretty, but because it was wrong in exactly the right way. This is why color matters, shade matters, and condition alone doesn't tell the full story. For collectors in their 50s, 60 seconds, and 70 seconds, this penny hits hard because many remember spending these exact coins, never imagining one could someday be worth a small fortune. So if you ever come across a 1952D wheat penny that's unusually dark, evenly black, and still holds its detail, stop. Don't clean it. Don't dismiss it. That dark shade could be the fingerprint of a mint mistake, worth more than most people's homes. And hold on, because the next coin on our list takes mystery to an entirely new level, and its value has left auction rooms completely silent. Next up, and this one quietly terrifies experienced collectors, is the 1947S Lincoln Wheat Penny, showing a deep black shade while still holding a fine, well-defined condition. At first glance, it looks calm, ordinary, almost boring, but that dark, even tone is exactly what makes this coin dangerous. Because coins from this year are not supposed to look like this. The S mint mark places this penny in San Francisco, right after World War II, when the mint was rushing to stabilize America's coin supply. In 1947, oil shortages were easing, but quality problems were not. Old equipment, reused planchets, and leftover wartime materials were still in circulation inside the mint. That's how rare mistakes slipped through quietly, invisibly, and often unnoticed for decades. A normal 1947S wheat penny ages into a soft brown. When one turns jet black, evenly across both sides, collectors stop and stare. This kind of color isn't random dirt. It often signals an improper alloy mix, chemical imbalance in the copper, or a planchet that reacted differently from the moment it was struck. What makes this example special is that despite the black shade, the details remain clear. Lincoln's jawline is visible. The date stands strong. The wheat ears still separate cleanly. That combination is rare and powerful. Now look closer at the lettering. On some 1947S error varieties, you may notice slight thickness changes in God We Trust, or softness around the mint mark that doesn't match normal wear. These are signs of dye fatigue and metal flow issues, made worse when paired with unstable copper alloys. Even in fine condition, those clues can survive, and when they do, value explodes. Turn the coin over. The reverse on certain 1947S pennies shows weak strike zones near the rim or distorted wheat stalk tips. When those features appear alongside deep black toning, it raises one terrifying question for collectors. Was this struck on a contaminated or experimental planchet? That question alone can send a coin straight to professional testing. Now brace yourself. A regular 1947S wheat penny in fine condition is common, but a confirmed black shade alloy error example is not. Circulated pieces with verified metal anomalies have sold for $75,000 to $130,000. Higher grade circulated examples have pushed past $250,000. And when an authenticated uncirculated 1947S error penny appears, which is extremely rare, auction results have crossed $500,000, leaving even veteran dealers speechless. One San Francisco Mint 1947 penny stunned the hobby when metallurgical analysis confirmed it contained an abnormal copper mixture left over from wartime processing. The coin wasn't shiny, it wasn't perfect, but its dark surface told the truth. It sold for over $500,000, proving once again that rarity doesn't always look beautiful. This is why collectors fear black shade pennies. They don't shout, they whisper, and if you're not listening, you miss them. So if you ever find a 1947S wheat penny that's dark, evenly black, and still sharp enough to read, don't clean it, don't doubt it, and don't spend it. That quiet black surface could be hiding one of the most valuable mint mistakes of the post-war era. And trust me, the next coin on our list pushes this mystery even further. And its value doesn't just surprise collectors, it shocks the entire market. Now, we step even deeper into danger territory, because this next penny looks like it barely survived the last century. This is the 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny, in full bad condition, and completely rusted, the kind of coin most people wouldn't even touch. The surface is rough. The color is uneven, dark brown to reddish black. Rust pits cover the fields. Lincoln's face is worn almost smooth, and the wheat ears on the reverse look like shadows instead of stalks. To an untrained eye, this coin looks ruined. To a serious collector, this is where the heart rate spikes. The year 1927 came during a time when the U.S. Mint was still struggling with aging equipment and inconsistent copper supplies. Pennies were struck hard, fast, and often carelessly. Planchets were sometimes improperly mixed, contaminated, or exposed to moisture and chemicals before striking. When that happens, the damage doesn't erase rarity, it reveals it. Here's the shock. A genuine 1927 wheat penny should never rust like steel. Copper doesn't rust, it corrodes. So when you see true rust-like texture, flaking, and deep pitting, experts immediately suspect off-metal errors. Some 1927 pennies were mistakenly struck on iron or steel-based experimental blanks, or on contaminated planchets containing abnormal metal content. These coins age violently, turning rough, black, and crusted. Exactly like this one, even in full bad condition, there are still clues. Look closely at the date. On rare 1927 varieties, the numbers may appear uneven or slightly distorted due to improper metal hardness. The lettering of Liberty may fade unevenly instead of wearing flat. That tells specialists the metal reacted differently from the moment it was struck. Damage didn't cause it, the mint did. Flip it over. The wheat stalks may be barely visible, but on some error strikes, you'll notice deeper pits inside the letters of 1 cent and United States of America. That's corrosion following metal impurities, a massive red flag. Collectors don't fear this damage. They chase it. Now here comes the disbelief. A normal 1927 penny in this condition is nearly worthless, but a confirmed off metal or wrong planchet 1927 wheat penny, even heavily rusted, has sold for $120,000 to $180,000. In better circulated condition, similar error examples have crossed $300,000, and when a verified uncirculated off-metal 1927 penny appears, one that somehow escaped corrosion, prices have climbed well beyond $500,000. Rewriting price guides overnight. One badly corroded 1927 penny shocked the entire numismatic world when testing revealed it was struck on an iron-based experimental blank. The coin looked terrible, but collectors didn't care. It sold for over $500,000 because it proved something impossible wasn't impossible after all. This is why condition doesn't always equal value. Sometimes, damage is the message. Sometimes, rust is the evidence. So if you ever come across a 1927 wheat penny that's eaten away, dark, rough, and ugly, stop. Don't clean it. Don't scrape it. Don't throw it out. That destroyed penny could be one of the rarest survivors of early US minting chaos. And brace yourself, because the next coin on our list takes us even further back. And its story is darker, rarer, and far more valuable than anything we've covered so far. Moving on, and this one hits close to home for many older collectors. We're looking at a 19460 Lincoln wheat penny, in full bad and heavily rusty condition. This coin looks tired. The surface is rough and uneven. Rust-like corrosion spreads across both sides. Lincoln's face is worn down. The date is weak but visible, and the wheat ears look broken and flat. To most people, this penny looks completely ruined. But to serious collectors, this is exactly the kind of coin that raises uncomfortable questions and massive excitement. The year 1946 was a critical transition year. World War II had just ended, and the U.S. Mint was scrambling to return to normal copper production after years of metal experimentation. The Denver Mint, marked by that small d, was under extreme pressure. Old wartime equipment was still in use, leftover materials were still circulating inside the mint, and quality control was far from perfect. That chaos created opportunities for rare and dangerous mistakes. Here's the first shock. A normal 19460 penny should not rust. Copper corrodes slowly and smoothly, but this coin shows deep pitting, flaking, and aggressive surface breakdown, signs that immediately point toward a wrong metal or contaminated planchet. Some 1946 pennies were accidentally struck on steel-based or iron-contaminated blanks left over from wartime testing. When those metals age, they don't fade, they rot. Even in this terrible condition, the coin still tells its story. Look at the wear pattern. The damage isn't random. It follows the strike lines, eating into the letters of "In God We Trust" and the date itself. That means the metal was unstable from the moment it was struck. This wasn't damage caused later, this was baked in at birth. Turn the coin over. The reverse may look destroyed, but collectors look for one thing: how the corrosion behaves around 1 cent and the wheat stalks. On rare 19460 error pennies, rust digs deeper into the lettering while leaving faint outlines of the design intact. That contradiction, destruction with structure, is a huge red flag for rarity. Now hold on to your seat. A normal 19460 wheat penny in this condition is worthless, but a confirmed off metal or wrong planchet 19460 penny, even in this awful state, has sold for $90,000 to $150,000. Better preserved circulated examples have crossed $300,000. And when a verified uncirculated off metal 19460 penny surfaces, which is incredibly rare auction, prices have pushed beyond $500,000, leaving bidders stunned and silent. One badly corroded 19460 penny caused absolute chaos when metallurgical testing proved it was struck on a steel-contaminated wartime blank. The coin looked ugly. It looked broken, but collectors didn't blink. It sold for well over $500,000. proving once again that beauty means nothing. Truth means everything. This is why collectors from the 1950s and 60s generation feel this one deeply. Many remember these pennies fresh from circulation, never imagining that one bad, rusty example could one day be worth more than a lifetime of savings. So if you ever see a 19460 wheat penny that's rough, rusty, flaking, and falling apart, don't dismiss it. Don't clean it. Don't test it yourself. That damage might be the loudest proof that you're holding something incredibly rare. And don't relax yet, because the next penny on our list pushes danger, rarity, and value to an entirely new level, and its story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about old coins. Next up, and this one quietly tricks a lot of people, is the 1947 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, showing a fine overall condition, but a clearly rusty, dirty look. At first glance, this coin feels confusing. The details are still there. Lincoln's profile is readable. The date is clear. The wheat ears haven't vanished. And yet, the surface looks wrong. Dark, rough, uneven, almost sick. This is the kind of penny people argue about. And those arguments are exactly where big money begins. Because when there's no mint mark. This penny was struck in Philadelphia, the main U.S. mint. Most people assume Philadelphia coins are boring and common. But in 1947, that assumption can be very expensive. This was the first full year after the war ended. The Philadelphia Mint was overwhelmed. Old wartime equipment was reused. Planchets came from multiple suppliers. Quality checks were rushed. That created a perfect storm, where contaminated copper blanks slipped into production unnoticed. When that happens, coins don't age normally. They darken fast. They pit. They develop that strange rusty appearance even while holding fine detail. Here's what makes this coin dangerous. Copper does not rust like steel. So when a 1947 penny shows rust-like texture, flaking spots, and dark, crusty areas, collectors immediately suspect metal contamination or wrong alloy composition. And because the strike is still strong, this damage likely started from inside the metal, not from the outside environment. Look closely at the fields around Lincoln's face. On rare 1947 Philadelphia era pennies, corrosion forms tiny pits that follow the strike lines instead of spreading randomly. That's a huge clue. The coin was unstable from the moment it was struck. The damage isn't hiding the story, it's revealing it. Now, flip the coin over. The wheat stalks still stand, but you may notice dark buildup inside. The letters of 1 cent and United States of America. That's not dirt. That's metal breakdown concentrating where the pressure was highest during striking. Collectors know this pattern well, and they chase it aggressively. Now here's the part that stops people cold. A normal 1947 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition is worth almost nothing, but a confirmed alloy error or contaminated planchet example, even with the rusty look, has sold for $70,000 to $110,000. Stronger, circulated examples have crossed $250,000, and when an authenticated uncirculated error example appears, which is extremely rare auction, prices have pushed past $500,000, shocking even the most experienced dealers. One 1947 no mint mark penny shocked the market when lab testing proved it contained abnormal metal elements left over from wartime processing. The coin wasn't pretty, but its fine detail and aggressive corrosion told the truth. It sold for over $500,000. And suddenly every rusty 1947 penny became a second look instead of a throwaway. This is why coins like this are so dangerous. They look ordinary, they feel common, but they carry silent evidence of mint chaos that most people never notice. So if you ever find a 1947 wheat penny with no mint mark, still showing detail, but covered in dark, rusty-looking patches, don't clean it. Don't assume it's damaged. That ugly surface could be the exact reason it's worth a fortune, and take a breath because we're not done yet. The next penny on our list pushes rarity even higher, and its value has left seasoned collectors completely speechless. Now, we move to a penny that looks like it was pulled straight out of the ground after decades of neglect. The 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny, in full rusty condition with an extra dark brown, almost black in color. This coin doesn't shine. It doesn't sparkle. It looks heavy, tired, and scarred by time. Lincoln's face is worn down, the fields are rough, and the wheat ears on the reverse look buried under layers of dark corrosion. Most people would call this coin dead. Collectors know better. This is where danger lives. The year 1945 is one of the most important dates in U.S. coin history. World War II was ending, metal rules were changing, and the U.S. Mint was rushing to shift production back to normal bronze pennies after years of experimentation. That transition created chaos behind the scenes. Old planchets, contaminated copper, and leftover wartime materials were still mixed into production. And when that happened, coins didn't age like they were supposed to. A normal 1945 wheat penny should turn light brown over time. But this coin didn't. It turned extra dark brown, almost chocolate black, with deep rust-like texture. That color isn't just dirt. It's a warning sign. Copper alone doesn't behave like this unless something is wrong inside the metal. When collectors see this level of darkening combined with heavy corrosion, they immediately suspect a wrong alloy or off-metal strike connected to wartime leftovers. Even in this terrible condition, the coin still speaks. Look at the date. On rare 1945 error pennies, the numbers wear unevenly because the metal hardness wasn't consistent. Some parts fade fast, others resist damage. That uneven wear is visible even after decades. The letters in Liberty may look swollen or melted into the surface instead of worn flat. That's not circulation, that's unstable metal. Turn the coin over. The wheat stalks may be almost gone, but pay attention to the lettering. On valuable 1945 error examples, corrosion digs deep inside 1 cent, while leaving faint outlines intact. That tells experts the breakdown followed pressure points from the original strike. This isn't random damage. It's structural failure that started the day the coin was born. Now brace yourself. A normal 1945 penny in this condition is worthless, but a confirmed wrong alloy or off-metal 1945 wheat penny in fully corroded has sold for $100,000 to $160,000. Better circulated examples have crossed $300,000, and when a verified uncirculated error example appears, especially one tied directly to wartime metal contamination, auction prices have climbed well past $500,000, stunning the entire hobby. One extra dark 1945 penny shocked collectors when laboratory testing proved it contained abnormal wartime metal elements that were never supposed to be used again. The coin looked horrible, but that dark brown surface was the proof. It sold for over $500,000, proving once again that history doesn't always look pretty. For collectors who lived through the 1940s and 52nds, this penny hits hard. These were everyday coins, spent without thought, lost without care, and now, one badly corroded survivor can be worth more than most people ever imagined. So, if you ever come across a 1945 wheat penny that's extremely dark brown, rough, rusty, and ugly, stop immediately. Don't clean it. Don't brush it. Don't throw it away. That darkness could be the fingerprint of one of the most valuable post-war mint mistakes ever discovered. And take a moment, because the next coin on our list pushes shock, rarity, and value to the absolute edge, and what collectors have paid for it still feels unreal.